Are you delusional? Do you need to be? I think on the outset, being told that you're delusional can seem like a bad thing. But the funny thing is that a little bit of delusion might be exactly what you need in order to succeed. I'm going to talk you through 4 different things today that explain the science behind why a little bit of delusion is actually necessary to propel you forward. We're going to talk about why these things are actually going to get you closer to what it is you're trying to achieve. And stick around till the end because there is a very important distinction between positive delusion and destructive delusion. One of these things is going to propel you forward, and one of them is going to completely distort your perception of reality. So it's a very fine balance, and we're going to dive into exactly how to maintain that. There's a very strange psychological phenomenon where people who slightly overestimate themselves often perform quite a bit better than people who see themselves accurately. You would think at face value that it would be more beneficial for you to have a completely accurate idea and understanding of who you are and what your skill set is. But it turns out that might not be true. Overestimating your ability to do something is going to change things like persistence, stress tolerance, risk-taking, resilience, and even your psychology behind it. Which raises the question, is a certain amount of delusion necessary for you to achieve these things? So let's dive into the science behind it. The first thing I want to talk about is the self-fulfilling prophecy. Your brain is going to behave differently when it truly believes that success is possible. If someone genuinely believes that they are going to make this work no matter what, it's going to change the way that they show up. They're going to recover faster from setbacks, they're going to tolerate embarrassment a little bit better, they're going to take more opportunities, and they're going to come off more confident in what they're doing. And over time, those changes in behavior and changes to the way that you are approaching the entire process are actually going to compound and are going to translate into actual results. This is one of the reasons why having a little bit of delusion can actually propel you very far. And it kind of speaks to that loop where in order for you to build confidence, you have to build competence first. This is something we talk about quite a bit on this show. But you having a little bit of delusion right at the outset can be that key to unlock your ability to actually try the thing and actually go for it and build that competency, which in turn will build your confidence. And it will propel you further than it would if you were going into it with just a purely accurate assessment of what your skill set currently is. And you took less risks, you took failure a lot more personally, every setback would feel a lot more major. It would feel a lot harder for you to keep going because you don't have this kind of delusional thinking of, you know what, I'm going to make it work no matter what. Right? None of these setbacks are going to hold me back. I'm still going to make it work. If you have a completely accurate perception of what the situation is, any setback can feel a lot more detrimental. But when you're going into it with a almost false overconfidence, those setbacks aren't going to faze you as much. And the next pillar of this that explains why a little bit of delusion works extremely well is the placebo effect. This might be one of the strongest scientific arguments for the entire topic, and it's probably one that you're already familiar with, right? You've probably heard about the placebo effect in many different scientific studies. They use this a lot to test the efficacy of certain things, especially medications and things like that. So you'll hear about people being split into 2 groups, and one is getting, let's say we're talking about medication, they'll get the actual medication, and another group will get like a sugar pill. And you will measure the body's reaction to these 2 things to see if the effect of the medication is legitimately because of the medication or just because of the expectation that the medication is going to work. That is essentially what the placebo effect is. It is the fact that expectation alone can create measurable biological changes in your body. Things like pain, stress, motivation, recovery, performance, all of these things can be impacted by your body expecting something and reacting accordingly. Even if the external environment or whatever stimulus you've given yourself doesn't actually match the expectation, your body will still react based on the expectation that it had. There's a researcher by the name of Dr. Alia Crum who actually did a research study that embodied this entire idea extremely well. One of her most famous research studies was the milkshake study. And so what she did is Dr. Crum divided participants, again, into 2 groups, similar to, drug studies that we were just talking about. And one group was given a milkshake, and they were told that it was a indulgent, high-calorie milkshake. Another group was given a milkshake and were told that it was a healthy, low-calorie milkshake. The thing is, every participant in both of these groups were given the exact same milkshake. They were just told a different description about what it is. After the participants drank their milkshakes in their individual groups, whether they thought it was the indulgent high-calorie shake or the healthy low-calorie one, they then measured the participants' ghrelin levels. So ghrelin is a hormone that is responsible for feelings of hunger and fullness. And what they found was really interesting. The group that had consumed the quote-unquote indulgent high-calorie milkshake had a different ghrelin response. The people who were in the study that were given the high-calorie indulgent shake had a ghrelin response as if they had eaten something much more satisfying compared to the group who had drank what they were told was a low-calorie, healthy milkshake. They responded as if they had eaten or drank something less satisfying. So their body didn't react based on what was actually in the milkshake because both groups were given the exact same thing. Their body responded based on what they were told the milkshake was going to be. Which means that the psychological and biological response of these participants was not based on the ingredients of the milkshake. It was based on their belief alone. Your brain does not just respond to reality. Your brain responds to what it expects reality to be. And so this ties back to inserting a little bit of delusion in what you're doing, because if you create a reality where you are delusionally optimistic and delusionally confident in what you're able to do, your brain is going to expect that you are going to be better at this thing, you're going to show up better for this thing, you're going to be more resilient in the process, and you're going to show up accordingly, right? You are going to operate on that basis because that's what your brain is expecting. That's what your brain believes to be true. And as we can see from Dr. Alia Crum's research, it's not just you gaslighting yourself into believing this is true and therefore it is. It will actually psychologically change the way that your brain is operating and change the way that you feel inside the entire process, which is why you can have a higher tolerance for setbacks and a higher drive and a higher motivation to keep going and keep doing the thing and keep learning and iterating and trying to get better at your craft because you believe that you're capable. You believe that you're going to succeed, right? That little bit of delusion is saying, hey, you know what? You're going to do this. You're going to do this no matter what. And that's how you show up. The next part of this speaks to why we naturally will lean into more of a delusional mindset. And it's because a bias for optimism is hardwired into us. Humans naturally overestimate positive outcomes for ourselves and underestimate negative outcomes, which is a perfect environment for a little bit of delusion. And I'm sure you've all seen examples of this in your real life, of this optimism bias coming out to play, right? This is the person who continuously buys lottery tickets because they believe they're going to be the winner, even though statistically speaking, the chances of that are very low. Or it's the person who engages in a lot of really risky behavior, like smoking and eating a really terrible diet, because they believe they're not going to be the ones to face the brunt of those negative consequences, right? They're going to be the lucky one, smokes and drinks and does all the things and never has to deal with the consequences of it. We have an optimism bias all the time, right? We are constantly overestimating positive outcomes for ourselves. And you may think of this as a bad thing, right? It may seem like it's a bad thing for us to be a little bit delusional and a little bit erring on the side of optimism. But this is actually a really good thing. Having a bit of an optimism bias helps us function, because if we were to err a lot more on the side of being realistic or potentially even being a little bit negative, we would take fewer risks, we'd pursue less goals, we wouldn't approach any situation where there's a level of uncertainty, and we would give up a lot earlier, especially when we're facing things like failure or setbacks or potential hardship along the way. So having that bias for optimism and that bias for success is going to help arm you to take on those risks and pursue those goals and step into that really unfamiliar territory because you believe that it's going to work out, right? If you didn't believe that there was going to be some sort of positive outcome at the end of all of this, you wouldn't do it. You would not engage in it in the first place. And that's fascinating to think about, right? From an evolutionary standpoint, in order for us to have progressed as a society as much as we have, it has been mandatory for us to step into a lot of unfamiliar territory and take a lot of risks and try a lot of new things without knowing what the final outcome is going to be. And that bias for optimism and that little touch of delusion is what has allowed us to do that. It's what's propelled us into a lot of new discoveries, into a lot of new territory, and being able to do a lot of things that we never would have been able to do if we were not willing to take some level of risk. The last part of this that I want to talk about runs along a similar vein of the self-fulfilling prophecy, and this is kind of the fact that the way you think impacts the way you show up, and therefore impacts the way that the rest of the world treats you. It creates this feedback loop, right? You being more confident affects how people treat you. And this is why a little bit of delusion, a little bit of optimism bias can be super beneficial, because when you are erring on the side of optimism and you are delusionally confident that you are going to achieve the thing you're going to achieve, and you wholeheartedly believe in your ability to do it, you make other people believe in you too. Because the thing is, people often mistake certainty for competence. They often mistake confidence for intelligence, and they often mistake conviction for leadership. If you show up more confident and more sure of yourself, people are going to assume that you are more qualified and more able to achieve the thing because of how you're presenting yourself. It will make them believe in you more, and therefore it's going to help propel you even further along that path, because the world around you is going to help cater to the narrative that you can do this, that you can achieve the thing you want to achieve, because you believe you can, and you show up in a way that demonstrates that you can, and therefore everybody else believes that you can. You having that amount of delusional confidence is going to create more opportunities for you, because people are going to be more likely to give them to you because you come off pretty confident, right? You come off pretty sure of yourself. Imagine if you were the person who was in charge of doling out opportunities for whatever we're talking about, right? Let's say it's a promotion at work. Let's say it's an opportunity for you to lead some sort of creative project. Maybe it's putting you in some sort of leadership position. Who would you be more likely to pick? The person who is showing up confident and sure that they are able to do the role, or the person who's showing up a little uncertain, a little unsure, right? They come up with maybe a realistic perception of like, oh, I've never done this role before, but maybe I can figure it out. Or maybe they even err on the side of negativity of, well, I don't know if I can do this. I might fuck it up, right? This is unfamiliar. I've never done it, so I'll probably make a lot of mistakes. Who are you giving the opportunities to? It's probably the person who's coming off confident and sure of themselves, because when someone else presents themselves as confident and sure of themselves, you feel more confident and sure of them. It creates stronger first impressions when you meet new people. It creates more social momentum, and it makes people see you in a leadership position. So having that delusion going into it is going to make you come off as a stronger candidate for whatever it is that you're trying to do, which in turn will push you further down that road and get you a lot closer to achieving your goal. So this is one of those situations where your delusional optimism and your delusional confidence creates a reality. And I do want to mention a very important nuance. There is a very fine line you have to ride between coming off as confident and coming off as arrogant, right? You want to seem confident, you want to seem sure of yourself, but not in a way that comes off as you are almighty and all better than thou and everyone else sucks and doesn't get it because they're on a lower pedestal than you, right? That's just arrogant, and that's just mean, and that's not gonna make people like you, right? I think we've all met people in both of these camps that either come off confident and sure of themselves, or just arrogant and mean and condescending, right? So be very careful of how you're riding that line and how you're showing up, because if you come off as arrogant and mean and just acting like a shitty dickhead, that's not going to open up more opportunities for you. People are not going to want to help propel you to success because they're not going to like you very much. Which leads me to the most important nuance of this entire discussion, and that is the difference between positive delusion and destructive delusion. Positive delusion is having this idea of, I can figure this out. I can succeed in this despite the obstacles. Even without you having evidence to support that yet, It helps create the narrative that allows you to be more resilient, more persistent, more creative, and more ambitious, right? It allows you to keep showing up and believing in your ability to succeed in this, even when you don't currently have proof. Where this becomes destructive delusion is when people ignore feedback from the world around them, right? They ignore the facts about their reality that could help shape the way that they're showing up. Let's say, for example, you are trying to get a promotion at work and you are wanting your boss to see you as competent, as someone who's really good at their job and deserves to be promoted. You having a little bit of positive delusional confidence and delusional optimism says, I'm qualified for this. I'm able to figure it out. I'm going to get this position if I work really hard and I do what I need to do to get there. And it's going to push you through all of the hardship of having to prove yourself and working the later hours and taking on the extra tasks and doing the things to catch your boss's attention and make you the prime candidate for that promotion. It is going to help push you to show up in the way that you need to in order to actually make that your reality. Whereas destructive delusion might ignore the fact that you are doing a job completely wrong. It might ignore negative feedback that you've gotten from your boss because you're trying to protect your own ego and you are so locked into this narrative that you deserve this and everyone else has it wrong. You're the only one who has this figured out, right? This is where delusion and optimism and false confidence starts to get into the territory of narcissism and incompetence and denial. That will not propel you forward. Is, again, a very fine line between having this delusion that you're going to figure it out and you're going to get there and completely ignoring all the signals from the world around you. But if you're willing to lean into a little bit of positive delusion, it can propel you extremely far. And if you're someone who's trying to achieve something major, it's kind of a necessary part of the mix, right? It's a necessary part of the entire process so that you can show up in the way that you need to actually achieve the thing. Anybody that you can think of that has started a business for the first time with no proof that they can actually do it before it happens. Everybody who has built a social media following at one point was posting videos with no experience and nobody watching. Everybody who has succeeded in a career that people didn't believe in or people didn't expect someone to find success in, at one point was training for this career just on the delusion and belief that they were going to figure it out. Everybody who has pursued a statistically unlikely dream, like making it to the Olympics or becoming a famous pop star, all of these people had a level of delusional optimism and delusional confidence that despite the statistics, despite the setbacks, despite the hardship, they're going to figure it out and they're capable of achieving. And it's that little glimmer of delusion that allowed them to get there. From the outside looking in to someone who's in those beginning stages, just riding the delusion wave, it can look kind of irrational. But if humans just waited around for certainty to exist, we would never attempt anything difficult. Every extraordinary achievement looked delusional until it happened. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll catch you next time.